On today's show, the impact of encroachment on Nairobi River.
As we speak, we have cases at Kara that have been reported to us, even by our members, about properties and buildings that have been built on wayleaves for the rivers and just even on top of rivers.
With Nairobi Dam, a pale shadow of its former self.
That dam, I'm giving it less than 5 years. You will see buildings on it, because already even the people have started buying plots.
We are saying anybody and all of us who will be found to be in conflict with what we are doing, the law will take its course.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Alex Chamwada. Let's begin with a recap of our last week's show. And many were shocked at how human waste is being discharged into the Nairobi River, mainly because of lack of sanitation and sewerage services.
Machoni zile malatrin, na ikijaa kuna watu wanapewagwa kazi ya kuchota, wanaenda kumwaga kwa maji.
Iko na madhara mingi, kama ukichota hapo kiko hapo ndani kubreathe, hiyo nini inakuwa ngumu kubreathe, alafu vifua zinafungana, tena unapata inaua ngozi.
The sewer from informal settlement, 80% of it goes to the river.
We also highlighted how the river is choking on garbage and industrial waste.
I think the state of Nairobi rivers is dire. We're faced with a near collapse of our river systems.
In today's show, we will also sample reactions from our hashtag #RiverInWaste. But first, here are some facts about the Nairobi River Basin.
The main rivers in Nairobi River Basin are Ngong River, Mathare River and Nairobi River. The three converge east of the city, beyond which the combined river joins the Athi River, eventually flowing into Tana River, which further flows into the Indian Ocean. According to the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, through its Nairobi River Basin Rehabilitation Program, there are approximately 6,800 inhabitants along a 5-kilometer stretch of the Ngong River tributary alone. The Ministry of Environment estimates that about 56% of the city residents live in 46 highly congested informal and middle-class settlements, normally located along the riverbanks. Worse still, 30% of the city's informal settlements fall within the 30-meter riparian reserve. In a study conducted by UNEP in 2003, the Nairobi River was termed as the most polluted river in Kenya. For the Chamwada Report, I am Michael Zimancha.
Let's begin the journey here at Ondiri Swamp that is located in Kikuyu, Kiambu County. This is the source of Nairobi River. The wetland covers an area of approximately 30 hectares with a perimeter of slightly over 3 kilometers. Hydrologists say the water sits on a valley of about 10 kilometers. Here, agricultural activities have a great impact on the survival of Nairobi River. From a bird's eye view, one notices heavy presence of greenhouses.
So we have a heavy use of agrochemicals. So the river then is polluted mainly in those upper reaches by pollutants emanating from agricultural farms.
Further down at a place known as Gathondeki near Kawangware along Naivasha Road, youths are engaged in car washing as a source of income, oblivious of the effects of the runoff to the river. But they are aware that what they are doing is harmful to their health.
Hata kushika tu yenyewe mimi naiogopa. Naona tu hapa nitatoka na ugonjwa ya ngozi hapa. Iko na wadudu wanatembea. Hata naogopa wale watu wanatumia huku chini kufua na kufanya nini. Wanajiweka katika hatari kubwa sana. Hii ni uchafu ya huko kichinjio. Wanamwaga uchafu na intervals. Kuna kama saa wakimaliza huko kichinjio kitu saa 6 saa 7, so hiyo ndio wanaweka uchafu. Na kuna hawa jamaa wa usiku wanafungua masiwa. Hawa ni masaa ya jioni kabisa. Wanafungulia, wanaweka. Saa asubuhi unaweza pata iko sawa, lakini kuanzia hapo saa 6 mchana unapata hakuna maji hapo, iko mbaya sana.
Now, as the river flows further down through the slum areas, especially Kawangware, the river begins to get dirtier due to the dumping of garbage and human waste into the river. During the dry season, most of the rivers in the Nairobi River Basin would look like this, darkish in color. When it rains, not only does the volume of the water increase, but the color changes to this.
You realize the river is heavily sedimented up to around Chiromo Bridge. And heavy sedimentation is shown by the color of the water. You see the water appears brown.
After Museum Hill, going down behind Kijabe Street, there is a park. This park is known as the Michuki Park. It sparks memories of the legacy left by former Environment Minister, the late John Michuki, following his hands-on efforts to have the Nairobi River restored. This section used to be engulfed in garbage, but it was turned into a park.
Tumirokota takataka tani 700, panti sa wanawake pikapu 2, juu wanawake wake kuwa nakuja pande hii samani, ilikuwa area mbaya sana.
I think, Governor Sonko is sitting on a huge potential for the biggest civic works in the Republic's history. Just cleaning up the river, how many people will you employ at every inch? And there's a lot of goodwill. I think he doesn't have to pay for this from his own coffers. Create an awareness, create a campaign. It will sort out a lot of our employment issues. For a very long time, the amount of work that we'll do in even creating river walkways around these things in terms of recreational aesthetics.
Causes of pollution along the river vary depending on the section of the river.
After Chiromo Bridge, the river is now hitting the central business district, where mainly we have non-agricultural activities. We have mainly commercial activities. So we have commercial effluents, what you might want to call municipal effluents, between, say, around the area around Chiromo Bridge up to Gikomba. Then from Gikomba downwards, the river is getting into another human activity zone, the industrial area, as we know it. The main pollutants from Gikomba downwards are industrial effluents.
Further down near Ruai, one notices agricultural activities along the river banks. The danger is the vegetables grown here may be harmful to your health. Remember, the water in the river has been found to contain poisonous metals.
Some of the heavy metals that have been detected within that stretch of the river are, for example, mercury, for example, copper, cadmium, arsenic. These are heavy metals with which are very dangerous, especially towards any living organism, be it plants or animals.
We take a short break. When we return, how encroachment is affecting rehabilitation of the Nairobi River Basin. Encroachment has been cited as one of the many obstacles in the cleanup of the rivers in the Nairobi River Basin. And if that is not tackled, then any talk of restoring the Nairobi River Basin will be just empty talk. Brian Oboya has more on that.
The threat of construction and the built environment that violates every regulation on riparian buffers.
The rate of pollution along Nairobi River has largely been influenced by the aspect of how far from the river is the physical environment. This distance is known as the riparian buffer, which according to the law of the land, it's a minimum of 6 meters to a maximum of 30 from the highest watermark.
No activity should go on within that 30-meter zone from either side of the banks of the river. Is that followed? It is not. That is one of the problems. And that's one of the regulations NEMA is supposed to be enforcing.
Having regulations is one thing, and having people to, especially voluntarily, comply is another thing. But in Nairobi particularly, because especially in some of the informal settlement areas, we have people who have basically built like on top of the river and all that. And we use a political approach, softer approach to actually do the clearance so that we can maintain the riparian zone. Maintenance of riparian zone is also very important for controlling pollution.
Several individuals have continued to construct buildings on the riparian areas with impunity. Impunity is their style.
As we speak, we have cases at Kara that have been reported to us, even by our members, about properties and buildings that have been built on way leaves for the rivers and just even on top of rivers. And these are cases that we've taken up with the relevant agencies, the Nairobi City, the county government, and even the Water Resource Management Authority. And in some cases, the residents have gone to court, but in other cases, we are working with the relevant agencies to come up with a solution. Because a wrong is a wrong, whether it is done at the slum areas or is done in Lavington or a posh area, we must be able to call it wrong and must be able to take proper action. We have been assured or told by Water Resource Management Authority that they have given their recommendations to the implementing agencies, which is the county government, and so the property that are within those particular areas interfering with the river needs to be brought down. What amazes us, or what really we don't understand, is why the county government is unable to take decisive action against things that have been proven that are violating the law.
We know these are planning perspective. These are planning issues, and whenever a building we anticipate is encroaching on the riparian, we communicate to the planning to ensure that the whole issue has to be suspended and the right riparian boundary is established so that the developer can. We know, of course, there are those impunity incidences, those have happened before, but I'm aware. Our Governor Mike Sonko, he wants to deal with the impunity. He wants to address the cartels that are really trying to frustrate service and delivery, and also the people's right to enjoy the quality service they deserve from the county government.
These houses in Kibra, or these ones in Mathare, and these others in Kawangware, or in fact, these ones in Lavington, have been constructed in what is visibly a riparian buffer zone.
We are saying anybody and all of us who will be found to be in conflict with what we are doing, the law will take its course. Yeah, even if they are permanent structures, so long as they are in conflict with the law, in conflict with the requirement of what we are doing. And that's why all agencies are here, NEMA, even public health is there. So all of us are involved, and we will prosecute through the due process. So not only the mechanics in Grogan, but anybody else.
Once we actually control encroachment on riparian zone and on waterways, and also encroachment on way leaves for sewer by informal settlements and by any other people, then we are able to make overland flow move, and we can reduce incidences of waterborne diseases in the country.
It is true that the government has a lot to do that it has not done towards rehabilitating the Nairobi River Basin. It is also true that most political statements and promises made towards the very rehabilitation have remained just that, political statements and promises. But most of that which needs to be done and must be done towards this cause has everything to do with self-responsibility.
Moving on, if you want to understand the impact of pollution on Nairobi River, you need to visit Nairobi Dam. Elijah Mwangi has more on the state of the dam.
The famous and infamous Nairobi Dam. it's hard to believe that some time back, this place used to be a source of clean water for those who lived near the dam.
I've lived around the vicinity of Nairobi Dam, and I've seen Nairobi Dam deteriorate with the time. In the 80s, Nairobi Dam, people used to draw water from the dam for domestic use. We even had a sailors club, which is still there up to today. If you went there, you see even boats that people used to use for recreational purposes in the dam. Apparently, because it is an enclosed ecosystem, with the Ngong River feeding it, and Ngong River traverses the famous Kibera slums. So all the domestic effluents from Kibera slum end up in Nairobi Dam.
Over the years, intensive encroachment, agricultural activities, dumping of garbage and raw sewage from the sprawling Kibera slums in the dam has robbed the one-time leisure park of its beauty.
The garbage collection is the problem because it's supposed to be collected by the city council, the Nairobi County, but it's a main problem here. They don't usually do it severally. And again, what we lack here is a dumping site, whereby if you have your garbage, you can take it a certain place where it can be collected. So we don't have a dumping site. So everybody sees that where they can dump their waste is at the river.
The dam, once a water reservoir sitting on 88 acres, has slowly turned to be a stinking open sewer, posing health risks to the residents. And according to experts, the dam is now getting to its final stage of ecological succession.
A third tier of ecological succession in that dam is the appearance of papyrus reeds and the rhino grass. And as I'm talking to you now, we now have trees that are sprouting from the dam. In other words, the dam is undergoing the natural ecological succession, but enhanced by pollutants.
Another challenge that is also affecting the rivers, the drainages. We have so many drainages coming from the slum. So there's a proposal if a gabion can be built, so can make this water to be clean.
A number of organizations have tried to rescue the situation, but plans to restore the dam have not been successful in the past. So why is it turning out to be a tall order for the stakeholders to correct the mess?
The whole process of having our rivers and our environment clean requires a lot of resources. That mobilizing these resources requires high-level commitment from the national government and even from the top leadership of our president. It requires that level of commitment.
And that is not the only challenge. It appears that there is conflicting information on riparian reserves, or perhaps there is high-level corruption when it comes to approval of some buildings that are shooting up around the Nairobi Dam.
The people within the river area, of course, in the slum areas, most of them have been there for so many years, and they resist eviction. But this is something that must be done in a very sober way and in a very long-term kind of planning, so that we start working towards making sure that these people are moved at one particular point. And there are guidelines and ways of evicting people. So if this are done within the proper guidelines and within proper planning and through proper consultation, public participation, I think we should be able now to eventually move these people away. Because at the end of the day, their stay within the close proximity to the river is affecting the ecosystem and the health of the river. And they must be made to understand that. One of the reasons why they even resist is because people have not been given an opportunity to really understand the impact of their action.
We need the public to be properly educated. They need to know when they identify their environment, they endanger their life. When they identify their environment, they put the cost of health very high. When they identify their environment, they make the service and delivery for the government to be very high because all money has to be diverted to cleaning the environment.
What used to be a hub of life is now a major threat to the locals in the neighboring Kibera and the entire city of Nairobi. The dam has been associated with outbreak of diseases like cholera and diarrhea in some sections of the city. Unless something is done, the residents around this place might just live to tell the tale. There was a dam.
That dam, I'm giving it less than 5 years. You will see buildings on it, because already even the people started buying plots there in anticipation of the disappearance of Nairobi Dam. And that will be the end of Ngong River.
Thank you, Elijah. Our hashtag River in West has generated an interesting conversation about cleaning Nairobi River. Let's sample more views.
From the online conversations, Andy Kakitu proposes that the only way to deal with the waste is to ensure there are well-structured sewer lines, as well as explore the possibility of dealing with the waste biologically to reduce accumulation in dump sites. And Becky, in her tweets, claims areas like Grogan, Ngara, Mathare and Dandora slums have sewerage pipes that are directed into the river openly. This is echoed by Samuel Urutwa, who feels it is the responsibility of Nairobi County to provide a sewer system, since the lack of such a system is the reason people in slums dump human waste in the river. A section of the public believes that the buck stops with our elected leaders and various institutions. Ongeri asks where the environmental experts and activists are, including NEMA and UNEP. Royo Diambo states that government officials must be held accountable for this river in waste, since they are paid to deal with such. However, some Kenyans disagree. Dominic Walubengo insists that government officials cannot and should not protect rivers. He further adds the citizens of Nairobi have to wake up and decide to stop polluting Nairobi River. Government officials will not help. But Troy counters, saying it is the duty of our leaders, and gives examples of countries like Rwanda where the government organizes and oversees cleaning of its rivers. Walubengo is further supported by Cade and Tristan, who observes that it is the people who do the dumping, not the leaders. Sentiments shared by Chebet McKenna, who is sickened by the young men who empty pit latrines in the river in broad daylight. While John believes the solution does not solely lie with leaders or the public, but with the combined effort of all stakeholders. He tweets, "It starts with me and you to save our rivers, and that we should never point fingers, but rather focus on what we can do."
We've come to the end of the show. Remember, this series continues, and next week we will look at the way forward. On behalf of the crew, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.